Oh, he took my fan off. My fan is mad loud.
I can't hear your fan.
You couldn't hear my fan this whole time?
No.
Does my sound sound any different?
No, it's good. It's good.
Wow, this whole time. What's good? We live.
Yeah.
I was there dancing and being online. What's good? What's good? What's good?
What up, y'all? Are we live?
Oh, we live. We ain't fake live. We real live.
Okay, now we live.
What's good, y'all? This is the Junction podcast.
Back.
How y'all doing? Yeah, we back. We back for real. Come on in to the live. Come on into the live.
Welcome.
We're gonna take some time for y'all to situate yourselves.
We on Facebook as well right now.
We are not on Facebook. We're on YouTube live.
Oh, we're only doing YouTube right now.
Only doing YouTube. Yeah. We don't got the funds yet to be on both Facebook and YouTube. We working it out.
Sorry to Facebook. Yeah.
Oh, the Facebook community, come to the YouTube live.
Welcome.
Come in.
Your boys is here.
What's good, y'all? The best doing podcast history here. It is episode 11, Bergen Street. How you doing, Jason? How's it going,
good,
bro?
I'm feeling great. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I look significantly different from the last podcast.
And I'm upset and I'm hurt, bro. This man cut off his locks.
I'm feeling lovely right now. You see the wave coming in a little bit
now. You feel free. You should be ashamed of yourself. You make me sick.
Nah.
Jason left the lock gang.
Lock gang ain't for everybody, y'all. Don't let them shame you into keeping your locks. That joint hurt. Retwist.
How did it hurt?
They squeezing every brain cell out of your scalp when they retwisting the locks, and they expect you to. I can't even go to sleep properly after a good retwist because my head is so tender and it hurts.
You should have changed the loctician, man. That's what it's about. Like you should have asked somebody else to do it. There's no way. Yeah, I know how it is.
My mom did it. My sister did it. My cousin did it. The loctician did it. It ain't matter. The joint hurt.
Damn.
But
so you decided to leave. Got the fresh fade, low fade, looking like Sue Surf. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm out here. Still your boy J Bugs.
Wow. Well,
how you doing?
Despite this, I'm good, man. I am hurt that you cut the locks, but I'm good, bro. I'm out here. I'm excited for this episode. I'm excited for our guest that we have on today. It's about to be a very, very, very good episode. So if you don't know, we're introducing a new segment called Queen Talk. This is like another we should have we need to get like an intro track for Queen Talk. We have somebody drop some bars on it. We could get No Name to spit on it on the intro track.
Shout out No Name.
Shout out to No Name. But this is the second part to our episode 10 where we had some amazing group of Black men talking about the issues going on. So we decided that we cannot forget about the ladies and for probably the most important input that we should get on these topics. So we decided to have Queen Talks as a separate entity. So yeah, Jay, you want to let us know how we gonna move today?
We really just it's the same thing. We're just gonna vibe out with these queens and just dig into their minds and see what their perspective is and hear them pour out their souls, vent to us, preach to us, support us, encourage us, like get angry at us, any feelings that they have towards us. We want them to get all their shots off, anything they want to get off that we just want to hear. We want them to have the floor to speak because we never want to feel like we are silencing our Black women and Black queens. And so us at the Junction podcast, me and my brother Akeem want to be in full support of Black women, and we want to even learn what that means from them and not from us saying, oh, this is what it means to support Black queens. You want to hear from the woman to see how they want to be supported and what that looks like. And so, which is why we have this great cast of women here, and it's gonna be great. Just how the last episode was great with all men, this episode is gonna be great with all women, and it's gonna be great.
Hey, facts. And we also got the shirts on. We got to come out and represent. Shout out to
what is
just
it?
black women.
Yep.
Shout out to black women just because.
Just because.
Just because.
You know, I got
It's a
this little
Tuesday.
shirt from
Hey,
DC.
fire.
My roots. You got everybody in the fro right there. That's a real natural. I used to live that naturalista life, so I understand what's going on.
You was sticking with it.
And so they got mad. It was actually mad cool. Got mad like faces in there. Maya Angelou, Barack and Michelle Obama, Martin Luther King. Mad just prominent black figures in all the fro, and it's cool. And it's all coming from the black woman. So
that's where it starts. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so we out here representing.
Shout out to the street vendors in DC. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, making their money in this hot sun. They still out there, bro. They still out there making their money, bro. Yeah, absolutely. They still out there on the street, bro, in this hot sun. So shout out to them for sure. All right, so we're gonna get into our introduction to our first guest. About to get into our bio. This is Latoya Archibald. She's a graduate from Howard University and has spent the last 12 years working in educational equity, environmental justice, and development. Her passion for faith, racial justice, and equity in DC led her to attend a screening of Death by Delivery in 2018, which highlighted critical issues surrounding Black maternal morbidity. Inspired to take action over viewing the film, she completed doula training, started attended births, and became more involved in birth justice. I didn't even know what a doula was until Lala became one.
That's the people that help you give birth, right?
And yes, and I had no clue until Lala became one. And
I feel like I've heard it in like songs before. I don't know.
It probably wasn't the same thing. I don't know what song you heard it in, but that was the same thing.
Who rapping about doulas? I don't know. Whatever.
Probably said I'm doula oblongata. That's where you probably heard it from. But it's not the same thing.
That's how. You know what? You're right.
As a labor and postpartum doula, Latoya focuses on nurturing and protecting women's memories of their birth experiences through emotional support, physical comfort, and an objective viewpoint. Since becoming a doula in September of 2018, Latoya has served 38 families and has provided 1,000 hours of postpartum support. That's a whole lot of hours.
Yeah.
Whole lot of hours. Latoya is also a leader of DC Unity and Justice Fellowship, a faith-based not-for-profit that promotes Christ-centered racial unity and justice through education and training, authentic relationships, and spirit-led action. Latoya lives in Ward 7, Deanwood Community. Shout out to DC, Ward 7, gang, gang, gang. This is Latoya Archibald. Get up for Latoya. What's goody?
Hey guys.
What's going on?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
To have you on. To be on this podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
How did you get into being a doula though?
Aren't we gonna talk about that? Did you hear my bio? Did you?
I was just curious.
I saw about it on a documentary. I also didn't know about it. So we're talking about a little bit over 2 years ago, almost about 2 years ago too. And I just kind of was like, what can I do to help with this? And I became one. So
just dive right in. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So thank you for taking part in the movement and pushing the culture forward. For sure.
Thank you.
Jay's going to sit next time. Yes. Next step.
We have Sydney King. Sydney King is a multimedia journalist based in Chicago. She spends most of her time braiding her hair or binge watching pretty much anything that comes out of the Bon Appetit test kitchen. But in her spare moments, she devotes her time and talent to her passions, which are storytelling, media innovation, and social equity. Sydney is currently a 2020 master's candidate at Northwestern's Medill School of Journalism, specializing in social justice and investigative reporting. Her hope is to leverage her education, life experience, and learn cultural competence to produce audiovisual work that empowers, equips, and empathizes with marginalized communities. Welcome, Sydney King.
Sydney!
Hello.
What's good, Sydney? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. What's the Bon Appetit channel? What is that?
Yeah. Y'all. Bon Appetit is, I'm going to say this very briefly because it's like my favorite thing on the planet, but it's a food magazine and they have a YouTube channel where like all these chefs cook different things. And my favorite series is one where a woman, like she remakes snacks like Cheetos, Pop-Tarts, Hot Pockets, but in like a gourmet way that's like you get at home yourself.
It's like the hood snacks.
A couple weeks ago and they were popping. So Everybody get to the Bon Appetit Test Kitchen. They need to like pay me for
For the shout out
or something. Yeah.
Have you tried any of these recipes?
Yes, the Pop-Tart recipe goes crazy. I tried the Pop-Tart recipe.
What Pop-Tart flavor?
It was strawberry. So like I made like strawberry jam with like frozen fresh strawberries and like made everything from scratch. It was
as long as it wasn't the cinnamon brown sugar, we was good.
10 out of 10.
you don't make the cinnamon.
If it was a cinnamon brown sugar, I'd be like,
what you got against the cinnamon brown sugar?
It's dookie.
Oh. Okay.
Masuda. Nobody makes the cinnamon brown sugar. It's a dookie.
Okay.
Or try out the Bon Appetit.
You got 12 cinnamon and 12 strawberry. It'll be 12 cinnamon sugars left.
Nobody want to touch. That's fact. Leave for the leftovers. All right. Last but certainly not least, for our honorary guest tonight, we have Courtney Douglas, who is an educator, birth worker, and doctoral student living in Washington, D.C. Her life's work has focused on vulnerable Black youth populations, workforce development, and youth advocacy. As a community member and former D.C. public school teacher, she can be found asking questions about the merits of traditional school systems for Black children. She'll be coming for their next. Through her research in minority and urban education at the University of Maryland College Park, Courtney investigates Black unschooling, homeschooling, and other approaches to self-directed education as current and historical forms of Black fugivity and refusal. Concerned with autonomy and agency at the intersections of race and age, her work centers the liberatory education and decolonization parenting practices engaged by Black families. We're gonna need to have a deciphering of this bio because Courtney killed it.
They got some words in these bios. I'm telling you.
We're gonna need an explanation. Courtney holds a master's degree in special education from the George Washington University and considers herself a lifelong learner. Welcome, Courtney Douglas. Welcome.
Thank you.
You got me all twisted around with your bio, bro. You got it in deep.
I should have had you practice that.
Exactly. I should have practiced it. I should have put my work in.
Some tips.
But it's amazing.
But I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. But it's amazing. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing so far. Thank you for all you guys. You guys have dedicated your careers and your lives to upholding and pushing for the Black community, and we love it. And that's what we're here for. That's what this podcast is here for, to highlight those things. So thank you for being here. Welcome to Junction Podcast, y'all.
Welcome.
Woo!
Yeah. So JC, we'll start with the first question.
Yeah, I guess so.
Get excited. Y'all was excited when the dudes were on here. So I'm gonna need all the energy. All the energy.
There ain't no light stuff.
It's the Junction. All of the energy.
Where the sound effects?
Where are the sound effects?
That's in post editing. That's post.
Oh, okay.
We got to get that out. We got to get that out.
Next step.
We need.
We just nervous.
Let me just say this, because this ain't no light stuff. Like we ain't here to do no little. No, this not no light stuff. It ain't no fluff.
We getting deep.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, so I gotta take that side with like, let me get my mind right, because now we gotta intro laugh stuff. Now we get into the real, and Hakeem just do it. He just do it to me, and I was like, oh, I don't.
Oh, my fault, bro. I was trying to. I can start.
No. You already passed to me. I ain't passing it back. I'm gonna get the shout out now.
Bet. Let's do it.
So let's just go straight into it. So we just want to know, like, what was your first reaction to the death of Breonna Taylor, and how did that? How did you process that? What was that experience like hearing the news, processing it, and like dealing with that from then until now, and how where's your head at with that? Where was it when you first heard the news? Where is it now? And yes, we'll start with LaToya.
Thank you, Jason. I was immediately really sad. And I'm like very empathetic, so I like feel immediately. And so I mean, it's like we're getting this news like in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of like everything else sort of like going on too. And it's a Black woman. It's a woman who is the same age as one of my nieces. You know, even just sort of like the circumstances like surrounding the death, where no, it wasn't televised or recorded the way like, you know, the George Floyd murder was, but I feel like the evidence around it is still very straightforward. And the justice, at least the way that our American justice system is set up, just is lacking there for her. And so it's really painful. But yeah, I mostly was just like really, really sad. Like I'm just like, really, you know, I could have been at home in my bed and this happened. And so I saw myself in the situation. And so yeah, so just like really, really sad, I'll say.
Yeah. Courtney, what about you?
I think similar. For me, I think there's still like a level of shock of like, how does this happen? And it's still very unseen, you know, unknown. I think for where I was at from when it happened even to now, it's just like, I think there's an anger, as well as just like a frustration that like, even in death, Black women like continue to have to like be our own voices, to like be seen and to be heard and to be like recognized. And so I think certainly while she's not many, there's always also the kind of these conversations when we're having, you know, around police brutality, it always kind of tends to be like, you know, Black men. And we as women also kind of have to be like, and women, you know, and kind of adding that in. And so even, you know, in her death and just, you know, the scores of other Black women who have also, you know, had this be their reality. It's like, why are we still having to have these conversations? Why is this still happening? And then just, yeah, this idea that like we're invisible, like even in our death.
Yeah. You said something, you said that you guys still have to be your own voices, like to fight for yourselves in this moment. Why do you feel like when these things do happen, and even outside of police brutality, why do you feel like you have to be your own voices in these situations?
I think, I don't know, I think in part, like, because like nobody's gonna ride for a Black woman, like besides another Black woman, like in that, just sort of at that level, right? So part of it is that like inherently, like we're gonna look out for each other, you know, because we know what it is to like to have to look out for ourselves. And I think yeah, I think that's probably the main thing I'll say.
Yeah. Sydney, what about you? What was your first reactions?
I think just echoing LaToya's sentiment, you know, Breonna Taylor and I are very close in age. So like immediately when I heard the story, I was shocked and I was just like, wow, that legitimately could have been me. Like legitimately, I could have been sleeping in my bed and someone had, you know, police had bad information and I wake up, you know, or I don't wake up the next day. So that made me really emotional. But I think also I tend to be very slow to form an opinion just because I'm a reporter and I know that like when things like this happen, like information gets spread and it's not always accurate. So my, you know, immediate response to hearing the news was to kind of like go on Twitter or just like look for media coverage or, see what was being written. And I was so disappointed to see that it wasn't being covered. Like, and when I found out, it was weeks after, she'd actually died. So I think, to Courtney's point, the people that I did see on the internet, like really, hey, like we need to talk about this. Like this is happening. People need to pay attention. We're Black women. You know what I'm saying? Those are the first voices that I saw, really going hard and like demanding justice for Breonna, were Black women. So I think what Courtney said is absolutely accurate.
That's real.
I have a question. So what aspect of her death did you not feel was covered? Like, was it the fact that it wasn't covered enough by like media, like higher up media outlets, like the television companies, or are you talking about like in terms of social media, like people recognizing her, like being aware of her death, or is it because it wasn't instantaneous, or because it happened a couple weeks after? Like, what part of it made you feel like, wow, they're not showing up for us, they're not respecting, like they're not hearing us or seeing that she died? What part of that really stood out to you that made you feel that way about her?
I'd say both. I mean, I think that obviously like the George Floyd murder got like a lot of coverage much more quickly, but I think that part of that is because like the media responds to they have their ear to like social media, they have their ear to communities, they have their ear to like what people are saying. And because people were raising, such noise about George Floyd, that's what led to, seeing CNN, seeing MSNBC, seeing Fox, like cover these things. So I don't think it's one or the other. I feel like they're very much tied together. I mean, there are definitely things that the Black community talks about that, that the news media or corporate media has no interest in covering. They're just not going to do it. But I do think that, it was kind of both. Like on social media, on Twitter, I see people talk about stuff every day, and primarily Black women were the ones who were pushing the conversation for Breonna Taylor.
So Jason, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, even like when I think about just like the social media conversation, like the killing of Breonna Taylor has turned into like memes. And like we don't like just there wasn't. I'm sorry. I didn't see anything. I mean, I saw stuff like, you want to know how to make a great grilled cheese sandwich, 2 slices of wheat bread, the best cream cheese, and don't forget to erase the cops of Breonna Taylor. And it's just kind of like, what? Like no one turns the killing of a black man's killing into a meme. And I mean, and I'm guilty of like pushing them too, because I think in some ways it's just like we can get so like calloused from things like this, and humor is just something that like is soothing, and it's just like, hey, like, but I'm like, I think I got to a point where a friend like even just like brought it to my attention, like, this is not okay. And I was like, no, this is not okay. And like, and they continue to come. So I think, I think it's important to talk about that. I think all of the murals and the beautiful like depictions of her are awesome. But like, like what are we doing to like actively continue to advocate, and to move for justice? I think that I don't want the memes and stuff to get lost into like the message.
Now let me tell you something, because last night I was talking to my brother Akeem, and I specifically told him, yo, the memes, all this stuff, arrest the killers who killed Breonna Taylor, like it desensitized her name, like it lessened the weight of her name. Like when you say George Floyd name, it's like, damn, that's heavy. When you say arrest the killers that killed Breonna Taylor, is you just think of memes now. Breonna Taylor's name by herself, it holds weight, but the meme, the hashtag, it became a wave. It became something that everybody wants to do. Like I started saying similar, like, oh, drink water, add seasoning, and arrested killers that killed Breonna Taylor. I was like, Come on, bro. Like, and I didn't even, it was mindless to me until one of my friends like commented and put up a picture like, yo, y'all really not respecting her name. Y'all trying to get y'all jokes off and
Yeah.
be clever, and you're not thinking that she has a family that has to see a name like this every day. And I was like, damn, I didn't even think about it like that. And then that's when everything started to bother me. I was like, why is this a thing? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
thought
just crazy
I
that you
felt
brought
like
that
it
up.
was and after hearing your point, I did understand that. I just thought it was a way to keep people reminded, because names do get lost in the way the news media were dying down. People were not talking about Breonna Taylor anymore. So I thought it was a tactic to be like, yo, this is not over. There's still work that needs to be done. You can't just go about your lives in type of way. I do feel like it got kind of far. I also, like, certain girls was like posting thirst traps, and they will have as their caption arrested. That was like, all right, y'all bugging and just doing other things. But at what point do you feel like it went too far? Because it was like, it's Monday, it's a good day to arrest the killers who killed Breonna Taylor. Like, at what point do you feel like it went too far? That, like, what mean was the cutoff for like, all right, it's too much? Cindy, you was about to say something.
Let our journalists.
No, I think like I see what you're saying, and like I get that. I think what really like started to bother me was when like brands and like non-Black people like started to, ride, because then it seems like, okay, you're trying to ride this, I'm trying to keep my followers or keep my customer base, so let me post this little meme and let me give y'all, what you want for like 2 seconds and then keep it pushing without like having to actually say anything that's meaningful, like without giving any sort of resources, without giving any sort of next steps. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, let me post this meme and keep it pushing. Like, that's really easy for me to add 4 words at the end of my sentence. And to me, that is not respectful of the justice that she deserves. When I saw people, to Latoya's point, I think that after a while it gets very exhausting and like emotionally draining to like constantly, in a serious tone or serious manner, like kind of beg people to pay attention to an issue. So I can understand why Black people who are fighting for this are like looking for some levity. But I definitely think that once we saw like brands and, bloggers and influencers and all that stuff, like that was just
and TikTok dances and just like it was.
Oh my, okay.
I didn't see the TikTok dances.
Yeah,
the TikToks was too much. Yeah, that was insane. That was insane. Courtney, any thoughts on the memes?
Yeah, I think initially I thought that it was like clever, in a sense of just like keeping the conversation going and not stopping it. But yeah, I think like what Latoya said, I mean, it does desensitize it. And also it just sort of can just feel like tasteless and just like, what's the actual point here? Like, and is it, and I think more than anything, I think to your question earlier, just like, and what is it doing? Like, what has happened? Mm-hmm. And the answer is still, you know what I mean? Like, nothing.
Yeah. But, and just to reminder, Breonna Taylor's killers are still not arrested, and that's still going on. And they've been doing everything else. They've been doing a whole lot of things around it, except for addressing the actual issue. And I feel like I have an issue in terms of, like Sydney was talking about, in terms of all these companies, the Band-Aid company making Black Band-Aids, and the Black Lives Matter Plaza doing all these nice gestures, except for attacking the actual issue. That bothers me in general. People see it as a win. Some people see it as a win. I necessarily don't. But what do you guys think about that in terms of the companies doing these gestures and these shows
let's
of
not
stuff?
Call the master bedroom the master bedroom.
Yeah, all that booty, all that bullcrap. Like, no,
yeah. I mean, again, it's a lot of performative actions that are not moving the scales of justice, and not making things more equitable, in any way. To me. So I'm just annoyed by a lot of it. It's hard sometimes to even like celebrate, like find the joy. Because I honestly don't think sometimes like that people like that their intentions are like that are mean or bad, kind of spirited. I don't think that everyone is trash. But it's just like after a while, it's just like this is not doing anything. There were already there was already a Black-owned company that sold brown Band-Aids of different shades, or bandages of different shades. So for Johnson & Johnson or whatever the name of the company to release them, it's just like there's already a market for that. And
You late.
Right. So yeah. That wasn't helpful.
Right.
So what do you think? I guess just want to see like your thoughts. Like, what do you think needs to be done to move the needle? Like, what are you looking for specifically to move the needle? Like, what would make you say, I know it now, the move is needed when I see this? That's
the question is a heavy question. That's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Any y'all could jump in.
I just do a as an alley-oop for anybody.
I think like, so one effort for like corporate accountability that I saw on social media was Jackie Aina. She's a beauty influencer. And she did this campaign with another woman. I can't remember the woman's name. I wish I could. But essentially they did this like huge call for all these like beauty companies to come forward with their with the number of Black professionals they had on their boards and that they had in their corporate offices, as a show of like, we're actually holding ourselves accountable. Like we've participated in this, like we've allowed like racism to persist in our particular sphere. And like, we're, showing that, okay, yeah, we made a mistake, but we're actually committed to change. And so to me, like things like that, where like, you're actually like putting your money on the table. You know what I'm saying? Like you're putting like your years long traditions of like exclusion and, on the table, and really allowing your customers to like question you, allowing them to call you out. Like, and I think that looks different than just posting a meme on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Or it looks different. I've literally had friends who said their companies, did a week long of like talks about George Floyd and racism and then all this stuff. And then, after the week got an email saying, we're going to stop these talks because some of the white colleagues are getting tired and uncomfortable with the conversation. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, so why even go through the theatrics? You know what I'm saying? If you're really not going to do anything. So I think the meme posting, the corporate emails, the webinars and seminars on diversity and inclusion, it's all purposeless. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to see real fruit. We want to see you amplify the voices of Black women. We want to see you put money in the pockets of Black women. So I think, and that looks different in a lot of different spaces. So I can't give an exact answer, but that is when I would say, oh, okay, y'all actually doing something over there. Okay.
What does that look like in your space as in the media and storytelling? And
I think that's a really good question, because
give me my coins. That's what it looks like. Give me that bag.
No, but there's definitely been a reckoning right now in just the industry. I think a lot of journalists are coming out and saying like, y'all have been silencing us in these newsrooms at these publications for a really long time. You've, put us in the race reporter position or the culture editor position, and, haven't really given us any flexibility or space to actually say what needs to be said. So I think that one, it looks like more Black people just in positions of power at news outlets. And it also, I'm a journalist. I'm trying not to get in trouble for saying my opinion. We supposed
talk your truth, Sid.
But I just personally feel like when we're talking about these things, like I don't want to see, I'm not gonna name anybody. I don't want to see, certain prominent white journalists like going on and on for hours about, you know, what they think is the issue in the Black community. I want to hear from Black people. Like, I don't want to hear from you, Billy. Like, I think
That's
William, Joseph, whoever you are.
Carrie,
It might be Laquan. I don't know, but
you know there's a Sandra out there.
but like, I really think that there's a lot of space for empowering Black voices in media, and, you know, not just giving us a little column on the side so that you can say you achieved it's the same thing, you know, this same performative thing. Like, don't perform, actually do something, you know?
Right. Okay.
Do you think that will ever, I know I'm asking these big general, do you think that will be the case? Like, do you think it's like we'll see that the end of the performative? Like, how are we gonna put our foot on the next end? Because I guess maybe we get content with the performative enough, like, oh wow, they just did that. Wow, they painted the streets Black Lives Matter, and then be like, oh wow, we're getting somewhere. And then we kind of let our foot off the gas. So how do we end the performative? What's the word? Performative allyship.
Yeah.
How do we end that? Or is it just we have to take our talents? I've seen someone in the comments say we need to take our talents to the motherland. That's what somebody in our YouTube comment said. Do you think it's as big as, like, you know what? Sydney needs to make her own news company. Like, you need to make your own, like, make your own table. Or do you feel like we can, there's hope for us to still have enough Black women at the one table? Or do you think, you know what, let's all make our own table and
we out of here.
our own narrative? What do you think, Latoya and Courtney?
Yeah, I'm interested in responding to that. I think, and I've had this conversation with Akeem and Latoya before, where it's like, for me and my energy, it's like, for Black liberation, it's like there's only so much that I'm gonna actually trust those systems to do what we need them to do. And so for me, I'm always about, like, okay, what would look real for me is like putting the power and the money in the hands of Black people to do it themselves. And I don't see that happening. So whatever level of, like, even moving past performative stuff, I don't know, for me, that there's a level of satisfaction of, like, what I expect companies, systems to do that are actually going to serve our real needs. And so for me, it's always about, like, that power is not likely to be given to us. Maybe we'll get some money here and there, but it's like, okay, well, where do we take it? Where do we make it? Where do we create our own? Because for me, I think that is kind of like the only real way that I see moving forward. But I absolutely, like, respect and understand that, like, there are people who have the energy and have, you know, the talents and the resources to, like, work within systems and to, like, push our agendas. I think we need both. But, like, for me personally, it's always going to look like, okay, like, where do we take and make space for ourselves?
So you believe in segregation?
I believe in Black people doing the best for themselves.
I say that jokingly, but I feel like there's a level of segregation that needs to happen. I'm for building entire Black communities the way the Jewish is set up. In Brooklyn, they have their own hospitals, their own police force, their own schools. That's my idea of Black liberation, having our own. Certain people feel like they still want to be involved in the system that to take over those systems because it's been built in America and they deserve to be a part of those things. But that may be seen as extreme. So what do you guys think? Do you think, like, not full segregation, but, like, do you feel like there has to be some level of segregation to happen when somebody, I think Jasmine said in the chat about circulating the Black dollar and having our own and building our own and being like, this is us, y'all do you, this is ours. What do you think?
I think if you think about, like, the success of the Montgomery bus boycott, it took the community, the Black community, everyone sort of buying in to, we are taking our talents, our coins out of this system, and we will get ourselves to our destination. And people think that the boycott went on for like 3 days or 3 weeks. This was like a year, you know, of people making this commitment. Like, we all gonna ride out together. We're gonna get a van. We're gonna get whatever kind of transportation. We're all gonna go in on this, you know, in order to move this needle forward. And it wasn't until this industry saw a significant hit, like financial hit, that they were like, okay, let's let them sit wherever they want to on the bus. Which is like the most ridiculous thing. Like, why would we have to, like, why would we have to do this? But I think you have to hit the pockets. And so I'm like, you know, I think last week was like financial blackout day or whatever. And again, the messaging around it was here or there. And again, I don't.
We gotta do better, y'all. We gotta come together. We gotta do better when it comes to this.
We do, and I also don't want to. I don't want to shit on the efforts of those who organized that too, because I didn't come up with that, and I didn't eat out that day. But you know what I'm saying. But there's like, you know, there's so much more that we need to do, and it's like, what are we willing? Like, what does that sacrifice look like? What are we willing to do to make that change happen? I also believe in reparations. I
get into it. Talk about it.
Financial reparations, coinage. And yes, we can take the coins and invest them in our community, but I'm gonna need the United States government to come up with that money. Now, I mean, I can't tell you like how much money is gonna be or whatever. I don't know all of those things. And if we think about it, like, no one will ever be able to give you enough money to pay our ancestors, our family, you know, for generations of free labor that Black people did in building this country. But we can certainly lift each other up and lift our community up, you know, as we climb for the betterment of our people. But I think it's going to require like sacrifices on our part too.
Sophia Nulty in the comments said, I'll take performative reparations.
So will I. So will I. So will I. I mean, it's just like, I was reading The Color of Law. Sorry, I got it somewhere. Sorry. Yeah, The Color of Law. And it's about like housing injustice in America. And it's just like, this system just was not set up for us to win, for us to purchase property, for us to like be able to live in community, you know, for any reason. And so there's so much more that I think the government, this constitution that, you know, all of us are supposed to find like freedom and liberty under, like, there's just a lot that they need to do to repay. And so I am for that, but I'm also for the liberation of Black people and whatever, by whatever means that needs to happen. So, but let's get back to the ladies. So,
Cindy, I want to hear your thoughts in terms of like, if you feel like a level of segregation.
Yeah. In an ideal world, I would love to like walk out of my house and see Black people, and like go to the store and see Black people, and like, you know, go out on a Saturday night and see Black people and put Black money in a Black pocket. Like, I would love that. However, I just don't, like, I don't know if it is a realistic like idea to invest my hope and dreams in, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that, I mean, racism is so tied to capitalism. Like, it's so tied just to the way this country is built economically. And I think that Black people, through like years of struggle, like have kind of bought into, I mean, not everybody, but, you know, have bought into like the idea of ascending, you know, ascending financially, ascending economically. And I think that, you know, if you want to call it socialism, communism, whatever, like Black commune, whatever, I think that is a hard idea to sell to Black people, you know what I'm saying? And so, and it's something that I struggle with on my own, like just balancing, you know, I be all day talking about capitalism this, capitalism that, capitalism. But then I'll be, you know, going to the store trying to get my
Right.
little this bag, that bag. You know what I'm saying? So I have not reconciled how to achieve Black liberation and empowerment in like a capitalist society. Like I'm very open to like learning more, you know, about how that's achievable. But right now, I just don't see that in sight.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we sometimes subscribe to a joint capitalism with socialism because we do want to raise up in the ranks in our respective fields. We want to make a lot of money, but we also want to provide for those in need. And as Christians, that's what we're called to do. We also want everybody to be able to live a life. We also want to make sure people should be in good living conditions and should be able to vote and should be able to take part in the American dream. So I feel like we sometimes subscribe to like a joint capitalist socialist society. And like you said, a lot of people have different views in it. I just want to see Black people win. I'm just rooting for everybody Black. So whatever form that comes in,
yeah,
I'm with it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, they're preaching in these comments.
Are they preaching?
I was go crazy for
Yeah. Can I just say really quick? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sophia, she said we have to embrace the communal mentality that capitalism destroyed. It's a sacrifice. And that's like 100% true. And I think that's the thing that I'm kind of trying to express grappling with. Like, I think, you know, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, yeah, I would love to live in a society where we value community over like individualism. But when I look at my TV, when I walk out the door, when I have, you know, conversations with people, that is just so ingrained in the society. And I think that, I mean, honestly, like when George Floyd, when everything started to ramp up, like I found myself saying like, this is never going to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, I literally was just like, I have no hope. Like I have nothing left to give. And so I think that sometimes it's really hard to like confront, you know, how big that sacrifice would be and what a challenge it would be to dismantle this idea. Yeah, so I don't know.
How much are y'all willing to give up? Because would that mean the interruption of the way that we live and the way that we think and we move in our careers, our daily lives? Like, I don't even know the answer to that question. But like, how much? I responded to. I'm gonna respond to Sophia. Like, what does that sacrifice look like?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Because even what Cindy was saying, like how deeply it's ingrained in us to like think like, yo, I'm doing for me. Like, yo, I'm trying to be number one. We trying to be the best podcast that we could get. This
Fact.
and that.
It's the Junction.
So we're not like even thinking about. It's hard to just switch that mindset. And be like, you know what? I don't care if we're all on the same level, and we all get X amount and the same amount of dollars, so that we can all be good. Because you're like, what? I don't know them down the block. I don't care about their podcast down the block. Like, what about us? Like, and so to get out that mindset to be like, oh, we're not thinking about us specifically for our game, but to think about everybody's gain is like, that's a total shift that takes, I don't know what it takes, because I haven't even grasped how much that would change my life to do that, you know?
Right. Jasmine said, I'm willing to give up Sephora, and that's a lot. Sephora.
It is a lot.
It's Sephora, dang. So it's crazy. If we got to start with Sephora, then we have a lot of work to do, y'all. If Sephora is where it starts, we got a lot of work to do.
I mean, Sephora recently took, it's like the 15 challenge. They signed up for essentially dedicating 15% of their shelf space to Black owned beauty and cosmetic products. Companies like Target have been asked to take the challenge too, because when all this sort of like popped off, I think they donated $10 million or something like that. And somebody was like, you guys make $10 million like before noon, like in a day. So like, that's not, that's not enough. And so, I think I mean, the 15% challenge is this idea that Black people make up 15% of the U.S. population. So I guess their way of, supporting the cause is 15% of their shelves, dedicating 15% of their shelf space to Black-owned brands. But I mean, somebody else said in the comments, that the socialism doesn't mean that you get what you earn. It's this idea, that we're all in this together. It's for the community. It's for the greater good of the community. Like, I think about myself now. It's like I want to own a home. I'm making strides towards to do that. But like, do I want to purchase a home, and as a result, like a Black family from a Black family that couldn't afford to stay in their home. Like there's all kinds of like, as we call out gentrifiers, I'm like, am I potentially, being one? I think, but that's again, it's like a unique perspective that I think as a Black woman, like I'm thinking about. I don't know that other people are considering that. But I think it looks like, making decisions for the greater good of the community and not just for ourselves. I don't think it means that we can't have comfort and like great joy too, but I think it looks like this American dream that we were sold that was never for us. I think it looks like reimagining that as we see, that America as we read about it in the history books is like a sham. Like it's not just, nobody wants us. None of the countries are gonna let us come in after coronavirus.
We can't even leave right now. We stuck right now. Our passports don't work.
Nobody wants us.
Yo, that's wild. So you spoke on as a Black woman, those are your thoughts. So just to switch gears a little bit, when it comes to Black liberation, what are the roles do you believe the Black women are supposed to play in this, and the role that Black men are supposed to play? I believe women and men are just completely different in the way we think, the way we were wired. I mean, specifically, Black women and Black men. Obviously, historically, the Black woman has always been treated less than and last to vote, and last in a lot of things, last in pay, and in a lot of different areas. When it comes to Black liberation, the uplifting of the Black woman seems to get left out last. So when pushing forward, where do you see the role as with the Black men in this liberation and the Black women? Where do you see us working in connection with that?
Could you, sorry, this is for me. Could you clarify a little bit, like why you separate the roles?
So this past couple of weeks, even with the whole Breonna Taylor, there's been a lot of tension. I've been on Twitter. Twitter is like my CNN. I get all my news from Twitter. But like, there's been a lot of like tension with like, oh, y'all give George Floyd all this love, and then nobody give Breonna Taylor. Everything that happened with, I'm forgetting her name. I forget the woman who was sexually assaulted on Twitter, and she was just and she died, and she was just protesting for Black Lives Matter. And there was this conversation. Toyin. And there was this conversation that Black women are often left out, and Black men don't care about Black women, all these different types of things. So it seems like we have different work to do. And as a Black man, and we talked about this on the last podcast. At the end of it, go check it out, episode 10. How we wanted to give love, we wanted to shout out to Black queens because we felt like, and it's true that Black women are left out. So it seems like there are different roles that have to be played in order to push the agenda forward. Do you believe like that has to be a work done in our community first before we can even get anywhere else? Like, I don't know if that's clear or not.
Let me think about it.
Well, okay, I think Courtney asked, why did you divide the roles? Because when you first asked the question, I was thinking in terms of like organizing or like in terms of, so I don't think that there's like a prescribed role for like a Black woman or a Black man, just like in terms of like organizing. Like, but I do think that Black women are, because I be on Twitter too. I think Black women are asking, like, when we say, oh, we're unprotected, or when we say, y'all give so much energy to this one issue, but then when this happens to a Black woman, we gotta beg and plead for y'all to say something. I think that we're asking to be listened to and respected and not interrogated. Like every time there's an issue that we say affects us, I feel like a lot of times, a Black woman can say, X, Y, and Z happens to Black men. And on Twitter, okay, Black men will say, well, it happens to Black men too. Do you see the statistics on X, Y, and Z and blah? And it's like, yo, like, why did you just all lives matter me? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes Black men can have a real blind spot when it comes to what Black women are struggling with. Like it honestly, sometimes I'm like flabbergasted. I'm like, you, sir, can understand racism and the ways in which you are oppressed. And then when I come to you with these issues that women experience that are almost like parallel to what you go through, but just, for us particularly, it's like I'm speaking a different language. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times we're interrogated and questioned and, well, is that true? Well, is it all Black men? Because I support the Black women that I love. You know what I'm saying? Like, all this extra, can you devote that energy to just supporting us? Like, we'd like to see that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think like, and I 100% agree with Sydney, but yeah, I think for me, like I'm still maybe like wrestling with this idea of separation of like roles. For me, it's like, because Black women are so not listened to, not believed, not trusted, not like put in positions of, power to like run with what they already know how to do. It's, to me, it's like Black liberation is like that my liberation is tied up in yours. So like lift me up and we're all gonna like move together. So I think for me, maybe it's not a separation of roles, or even like just like a delineation of like, well, y'all got to do this and we got to do this. But I think it's certainly collective, but it's like, but see us, like hear us, listen to us, and recognize that like you're only going to move as far as like you allow me to like also move in the way that I'm supposed to. And I think unintentionally, men, Black men, can like suppress that, and I think part of the work, I mean, and maybe the biggest part of the work, honestly, is like healing, so it's like, I think there's been a major move of like Black women coming to like grips with like, y'all, like we got some healing to do, you know what I mean? Like in our mental health, physical health, and our spiritual health, like we're going to leave some things behind that don't serve us anymore. And like, we're committed to like kind of doing that work in ways that, I mean, we still are like living exhausted and we're still like doing all of the things. But I think maybe part of the role of Black men is to like also begin to do that healing work, so that as we are like trying to liberate together, we're also coming kind of like from healed places.
Right.
Can you, I don't know if is this going to be too personal, but it's your healing process specifically as you, because if you're trying to heal yourself so that you can still uplift Black men, but then you still got to deal with, dang, why Black men don't support me? What does that look like for you internally? Like, how do you process that, like that dynamic where like, yo, I got to heal myself because of them, but while still supporting them at the same time?
Jason's trying to do some healing right now. He's trying to have a therapy right now. It's not just a podcast.
You know, this is not the red table either, though.
You've been brought to the red table.
No entangling.
Entanglement.
Y'all are entangled. We changed the episode to entanglement. This is what it is now.
For me personally, some of that looks like choosing when to bow out, when to say no, when to like kind of like self-protect, you know, in terms of, you know, sometimes that is just like limiting like how much I'm going to engage, you know, online or with people, or kind of like you know, what spaces I choose to be in. And I think it also means like just having grace for where people are at, like recognizing that we are a traumatized people. And that as much as like, you know, I'm hurting and I have to do that work, other people are in different places where they may not even know they need to do that work yet. And so it's not entirely judgment free because you want people to do better, but at the same time, it's like grace, you know, like in whatever sort of ways I have capacity and or what's in my lane to like help someone else kind of like along the way, or even just give room to like ask a question like, so like, are you taking care of yourself? You know, there's I think just grace for that.
Israel. Lala, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's a competition or a separation of like duties. I think that we are in this together. I think from Black men, I would like the same grace that I extend to you to be extended to me and to be extended to other Black women. I want Black men to believe Black women. I want Black men to do the work of taking care of themselves too. And, you know, whether that's your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, like you do that work too. We ride for y'all like so much. Like we really do love y'all. And I recognize that, that, you know, that folks have trauma, have experienced trauma. And I don't want to say that every experience that you've had with a woman has been great, or, but I think if we are able to like move past that and get healing in that, then I think that we can do so much better at like serving the community, but also just like serving each other well. You know, Jasmine said it in the comments about dating us, but I would like to underscore that. I would like for you to date us. I would like for you to marry us. I would like for you to have children with us. You know, so that we could keep going. We want to build generations. So, you know,
You mean like, does that come in like marrying multiple of y'all, or
no,
no.
Unlike a mutual friend we have.
Is there Black entanglement?
a whole lot of entanglement?
I just want one at a
together.
time. As for me and my house, I just want one. But others have, you know, what works best for their household. This is a safe space. But yeah, like I aspire to be, you know, with the Black man, and so, but I recognize all that comes with that, and I'm not afraid of that, and I want a Black man to want to be with I want a Black man who wants to be with a Black woman, but also recognizes all that comes with that, and is gonna ride for me in the way that I'm gonna ride for him. So that's just my thought.
Lala just gave her PSA, like, all y'all niggas out there.
Right.
If you ain't know, like,
if you ain't know, now you know.
If you didn't get the hint yet.
Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Cash App. Follow me
on Cash App.
That's the most important one. You feel like that's not like, do you feel like that's really the case, or just like, because I feel like maybe just my own perspective in my own life, I know like a lot of Black relationships. So I haven't seen a lot of like Black men choosing other than Black women. So have you, like, you've actually seen that, or is it based off your perception in like media? And when you see the athlete that's in the NBA and then you see him with a white woman and be like, dang, wow, Black man is choosing other women, or do you actually like, have you witnessed that in your personal lives and that has made you feel like, dang, they're not choosing us no more? Because yeah, I'm just saying from my perspective, from where I live, is like from my experience, it's like, oh nah, that's just the normal. So I know that's not the case for everybody. So I want to know if is that what happened for you? Like you just saw like, dang, why he with her? And there's like
With
you
Becky,
right here.
man, he chose Becky.
Say something about that. So it's not the of other is it is like, and again, I am a researcher, but like don't quote me on these numbers specifically, but like it's like Black women are single at rates that are higher than like every other like race. And I think what I see is not necessarily Black men not choosing us as much as it is like we just not marrying. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're just being single longer because they got more options. Or I think it doesn't show up, I don't think, in like as much in them not dating us. But yeah, maybe not like choosing us as life partners based on the numbers, like, and what we can see. Now, also, I mean, you do have to account for like Black men that are available and single and able to, date or marry. But I mean, just at a statistics level, it's like the numbers don't make sense.
Got you.
Cindy, you gonna say something?
Okay, I think that it's very important. One, like, I think that everybody's experience is different, like depending on your geography, your age, your era, like all of that. Like, I think that like a lot of people have a lot of different experiences, and I think it can be hard for Black men to like grasp this concept when they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like all my homies like have Black girlfriends, like and even somebody like me who grew up around Black guys who wore like Vineyard Vines polos and those pastel like Bermuda shorts and like wanted to date white women, like I could walk away with a certain perspective. So I think it's really important just to like have a holistic understanding of the situation. But I think that a lot of Black men like grow, like we all experience a level of like anti-Blackness, like a level of being taught anti-Blackness, and like we grow out of it. But I think a lot of times Black men learn out of their anti-Blackness and grow out of like different things that they're taught at the expense of Black women. Like you can see, like you can see, like, I could see like a guy that I went to high school with, married to a Black woman now. But when I was in high school, he was telling me like, why your hair look like that? Like, oh, you look real dark today, like stuff like that. So I think that it's important to validate like the experience of women as men are like growing through that. And I think that's something that we struggle with in general, not just in dating, but just in general, like men learning to understand their privilege, or maybe they don't understand their privilege. Maybe you 55, 65 and you just, I don't know, you need to
wait, so black male privilege is a thing?
Like male privilege is a thing.
Yes.
You're a man.
Don't give me that face. I'm asking the question.
I'm about to give
yeah.
No,
yes.
I asked that generally because people, again, on Twitter, people feel like black male privilege is not a thing. I think when ESPN co-host, I forgot her name, Jamel Hill, said that black men are the white people in the black community. And I felt like that was a bit extreme. And I feel like that's where black male privilege stems from. So
yeah, I didn't like the way that she like phrased that, but like I understand the sentiment, because I mean, as I mentioned earlier, like you can talk with a black man, like, okay, white people don't have to understand racism or don't try to understand racism because they don't have to. It doesn't disrupt their world. Like their world continues to turn. You know what I'm saying? They get to do what they want to do, live the life they want to live. And I ain't got to worry about so-and-so being called the N-word or not getting the job or not getting the house or being shot by the police because it doesn't affect me. Same thing with misogyny, like same thing with sexism, same thing with patriarchy. Like if you truly like didn't care to empathize or understand the plight of black women, you wouldn't have to. Your world would continue to turn, and we would still be dealing with the issues that we deal with. So I think there is a similarity in that sense. Akeem's like, I don't know.
I completely understand. No, I hear you. It's just a lot in there. Courtney, go ahead. You were gonna say something.
No, I'm still just wrestling with. Was that a real question from you? Like, is Black?
No, it wasn't. It was a question for her to clarify, because I have heard the term black male privilege, and I've always tied it with what Jamel Hill said, and and I have been wrestling with it when she said that black men are the white people in the black community. I'm like, bro, that's wild. But the way Cindy broke it down, I understand like the world still turns. But so do you feel so using that analogy where the white women don't have to worry about racism, black men don't have to worry about the women, do you feel like that stops with the black women? Like black women have to deal with the issues regardless, and I guess how am I gonna phrase this? You understand what I'm saying? Like there is no, because okay, I don't know how I'm phrasing this. I don't know if I'm like,
are you saying like we need like black men as allies in order to like move forward? Like, is that what you're saying? Like,
no, because you're saying the world still turns when black men don't have to worry about women because the world still turns. White people have to worry about racism because the world still turns. I said, do you feel like that stops at black women, where they don't have the privilege to ignore other things and their world still turns?
No, I mean there's class privilege. There's you know, I try to be very aware of my privileges. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I'm not disabled. Like, I'm of a certain like economic status, or I'm, you know, from a certain area, or, you know, I'm a cisgendered, like heterosexual woman who doesn't have to experience certain, you know, like bigotry or discrimination. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like as humans, like we should all be aware of how our status in this society like allows us certain privileges that other people just don't.
Right. Okay.
That's good.
That's good. Any other thoughts? Y'all are comfortable with that black male privilege. I just want to understand.
Black male privilege.
You said I tapped out. That's it.
I'm gonna learn.
But I think that's some of that discomfort that I was talking about earlier. It's just like wrestle with that. Like sometimes we have to sit in that. Like you have to sit in it. And again, because we love y'all so much, we'll come sit next to you. You know what I'm saying? Like we will. Like even in you not like understand or having maybe you don't get all of it right now, but like we still ride for you. But some men can't move past it and will completely disassociate themselves from us. Like we'll make the decision like, I'm like, y'all asking me questions, y'all angry, y'all go to the salon too much. You know, it's like whatever, you know, just like all these things. And it's like, you know, that was an exaggeration. But you know, just like it's just like this unwillingness to sit with that. And so that's the part that's like this constant like dissonance.
Yeah, I hear you guys.
Yeah,
and I think this is what these conversations are for, to allow these things to be talked about and to hear different perspectives. Because I agree, a lot of black men, I've been guilty of myself, of not wanting to engage because it does make you uncomfortable. It does make you feel like you're being attacked. When it's like, I'm not. I do love black women. I do ride for the people in my community, but sometimes it feels like you're not doing enough. You should be doing more. I feel like a lot of black men just want to understand, because it is a strong narrative that black men don't ride for black women, don't like black women, don't care about them. And I have seen it, and I have been in experiences where black men disrespect black women, don't care about them and leave them on the side. So I do know that that's a real thing. But when it comes to the circle that I'm around, that I know I wouldn't be around anybody who would be, who I wouldn't allow men in my circle who treat women in a certain type of way, period. It sometimes feels like, what more can I do? Or like, what else am I missing in this fight, in this uplifting of black men? And then some black men don't feel at all like that there's work to be done in general. So I definitely feel like these conversations are important. So
I'm gonna just go back to what Sydney said, where like in all the ways that you think about how white people get to move through the world, like as white people in their bodies, like, and experience you know, all the fruits of the things that were created for them. I think it's a transition, but it's also like in the same ways that you would try to explain to a white person like what it is to move through the world as a Black man. It's like recognize that there's a level with which Black women have to move through the world in a certain way. And it's like, you know, I even think about
this is what white people feel like. Dang, that's crazy.
you know, like
now we Billy now.
Now we Billy. I'm Karen now.
Hey,
you know?
Go ahead.
Keontae.
Right. Keontae.
But
Sorry, go ahead.
so it's just like I think about, and I mean, I've heard like, you know, in the same way that, you know, Black men are like hyper visible, right? So it's like maybe, you know, you're very aware of like being seen in the world, right? Because people like see you as a threat, or, you know, they move away from you or whatever. I think for Black women, it's like, again, at least, and again, I'm talking about my experience, right? It's like there's a hyper invisibility where it's like we move through the world not being seen and used to not being seen. And so it's like, you know, even how you conceptualize like, you know, why a girl is acting out in a certain way, or like, you know, your concerns about like what she does with her body. It's like there's ways that it's like
we may get to that. Yeah.
She has to move through the world in a way that both is like self-protective, but also like rides for other people, you know? Yeah. And so it's just, I think it's just sort of thinking about that difference between like racism, sexism. It's not the same, but there's a way to like conceptualize like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just wanted to add one thing. I think like what's really hurtful to a lot of Black women is like living with that reality. And then like, like when, I mean, I feel like as a country, we're always in a time of crisis, but like in times of crisis, like we really like go hard for Black men, you know what I'm saying? Feeling like we have to put like our Blackness before, you know, like our status as women, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know if you guys saw this documentary, but I think this is a really good example. There's a documentary about Drew Dixon and her accusations against Russell Wilson. Am I saying his name wrong? Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, yeah.
That's not his
Wilson?
name.
The
From the Seahawks?
Huh? No.
Russell Simmons.
Thank you.
I was like,
to be clear.
Russell Wilson did that?
Russell Wilson did.
That. I was like, Sierra's
Russell.
She was a music industry like executive, and she worked for his company. And, you know, she basically talked about how she was assaulted by this person, and she for years never said anything because she didn't want to contribute to the narrative that Black men are predators. And I think that Black women are hyper aware of how Black men are treated in society. We're hyper aware of how we can contribute to, you know, like perpetuating certain stereotypes, perpetuating certain thoughts. But when it comes to us, our struggles are an asterisk in the movement. You know what I'm saying? It's like Black men's lives matter. And then when we done with that, maybe we'll talk about what Black women go through. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think that's really hurtful for us.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So I guess this is gonna be our final question. This is your closing statement. Your statement.
We're gonna get y'all out here by 7:30.
The statement to everybody who's watching and anybody who will hear this, what describe it in like 3 words or less or more or whatever. Less, more, however you feeling, like
3 ways. That'd be words like 3 ways.
3 words like that describe what it is to be Black and woman in America. The floor is yours.
You give some time to think. Why they think we thank y'all for tuning in to the Junction Live episode podcast.
All the
Please
commenters,
subscribe.
y'all made it.
Yes, please. Thank you guys. Please subscribe to our YouTube page. Please like and follow us on Instagram at the Junction Podcast,
Share this.
Facebook at the Junction Podcast, Twitter at the Junction Podcast. We love y'all. We love having these conversations. We love bringing amazing Black people on and turning up. So please follow us. Show your support.
I ain't saying already. Yes, cool. Russell
Y'all supposed to have this on. Y'all supposed to have this in the clip, ready to be like.
You should have said that question ahead of time.
I didn't know.
I gotta mull over it.
That was question number 7, I believe. Y'all didn't read over the question. Y'all talk to y'all publicists and assistants. You dropped the ball. You're supposed to get the questions to y'all.
Man, when she said Russell Wilson, my heart dropped. I was like,
bruh, I knew I wasn't saying the right name. That's why I was like, somebody help.
I was like, if Russell Wilson did something wrong, there's no hope for him.
We all done, man. We got no hope.
He's the best of us. Him and Steph Curry.
He's the best of us.
I also, just want to, the person that I mentioned who did the campaign with Jackie Aina was Umi Beauty. It was her idea. So I just wanted to put her name out there.
Shout out to Umi Beauty. Good shout outs on the Junction Podcast.
Can you repeat your question, please?
The question is, describe in 3 ways or 3 words how it is to be Black and woman in America.
I think you're gonna have to just call on somebody because no one's.
Oh, I thought
I thought you were gonna jump at it. Lala, let's go.
I went first last time. I always
if you ended up, all right, listen, Courtney, go ahead.
Okay. So to be Black and woman in America is to be dope AF, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'll think about if I want to elaborate on these after I finish my list because I'm still creating it as we go. I think number 2 is to be resourceful. I was, telling some people I think I've sort of had some of this before this pandemic and all of the stuff that's been happening, but through this, I think for me, what's happened is like I am, just like doubling down on Black women. Like I believe in Black women to get shit done. And it's like that for me, I think has like raised as a priority level through some of these things. So I said dope, resourceful. And I will say it is to be, I'll say, I was actually thinking about this earlier, like a paradox. Where we are both like the workhorse of the world and like the, bearing the burdens of, so many like people groups and, just we bear that brunt and we bear that burden, but we also have so much strength and it's like, we're also invisible, but we're also like highly elevated in some ways in our own communities. And so, yeah, I would say it's a paradox. And I think navigating that is also sort of just like a balancing act. It's confusing, but also empowering, but also frustrating. So yeah, those are the things I would say.
Gotcha.
Let me tell you, that resourceful one hit because my mom is, if she's nothing else, she is resourceful and she can make magic out of anything.
Nothing, y'all.
You break something in the house, you be like, oh man, mom, the thing is broken. She's like, nah, let me just get this and this and then put it together. And she does that with everything and anything. So that resourceful one just hit. Made me think about mom.
I'll go in the middle because I feel like Latoya's are going to be better than mine.
Wow. Lala, the pressure is on.
Yeah,
the pressure is on, Lala.
I hate him now. We got
Yo.
The first one that came to mind was just like being a Black woman is fun. And I know we've talked about a lot of like heavy, painful things, but I love being a Black woman. I feel like we're like the funniest, coolest, like just like we just have, we know how to enjoy and make the most out of life. And so yeah, I think it's fun. And kind of similar to Courtney, another word that came to mind was just like conflict, like a level of internal conflict, a level of external conflict as well. Just, I think always being aware of how like different forces are like competing with our just attempt to like live and be. And I think that, we kind of have to wrestle with like what people say about us and like really fighting and believing in who we are and just like who God created us to be. Like, I think that every Black woman experiences that on some level. But it's really empowering when you're just like, you know what, like, F y'all, I don't care what y'all think. Like, I'ma do me. I am this Black woman, and that's it. Period. Point blank, whatever. And period, point blank, whatever. And we supposed to say 3 words. Can I just go with 2?
You can do it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah,
Now go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, so yes, I can go with 2.
Yes, you go too. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. That's it.
That's
Shout out to all the Black women out there. I love y'all. Yeah.
Oh wow, Sydney, your 2 was more than enough. Just want to affirm you, my Black queen. It was more than enough. I would say to be a Black woman in America is to be proud. I cannot see myself being anything else. I don't want to be anything else. And so I'm super proud to be me, to be a Black woman. And yeah, so I would start with proud. I would also say pained. And so Black women, we sit at these intersections of race and gender and class oppression. And I think it's a real thing. So there's pain that is associated with that. But I also think that because we sit at those intersections, we are prophetic. And we have a way of seeing like the solution at the end. And it's not just to our benefit, but it's to the benefit of the community. And so I think our prophetic voice is important. And we should lift it up, and we look to our brothers to lift it as well. But yeah, I would say proud, pained, and prophetic.
Lala with the 3 P's.
I had to give you that mic drop opportunity.
I come out of the Black church tradition, so I wanted to do more, but it's 29.
Strong. Oh my gosh. Well, we thank you guys for being here, coming on this podcast, launching our Queen Talk series. Obviously, there's so much more we could talk about. There's so much more we want to get into. But thank you guys for pioneering this and just starting us off, because we want to keep having these conversations. We want to keep uplifting Black women and allowing you guys to share, talk, and voice your opinion and allow us to learn as Black men ourselves. So thank you guys so very much, and continue to do the work that y'all doing. For real, clap it up. Yeah, Queen Talk.
It's the Junction. And thank you for having us. Of course. I remember when y'all started. I remember. Wow. And the growth is noted, and it's beautiful. And thank you for having us on your platform. I really appreciate this space.
Of course.
Shout out to the comment section.
Yes.
Yeah.
Comment section lit. Thank y'all for giving y'all questions and y'all thoughts, all of that. And we are having an IG live after party on our Instagram at the Junction Podcast. So please go on there. We're going to be chopping it up some more. And Jason, anything else to say to the people?
Do I have any? No. No. Go on. Enjoy
That's
this.
it.
Yeah, we good. They said everything. Proud,
Word.
pain,
Okay.
prophetic, paradox, felony, conflict,
All the P's.
all of it.
All the P's.
Remember all of
Okay,
that and let that simmer and yeah, let's go.
Yeah, for real. And continue the work y'all doing. Y'all know you're my peoples in
Oh,
real
yeah.
life, so I'm
And the
proud
black
of
man,
y'all.
listen,
Everything
black
y'all
man,
doing. Yeah.
do the work yourself. Do the work in yourself to help them.
Yes. Heal,
Remember that.
black men. Heal. Let us heal.
Heal, man.
Not at the red table though. Don't go
That's
to the
right.
red table.
Don't go to Jada.
I
Don't go to
don't.
Jada.
I said don't go to the red table.
Yeah.
Oh
You gonna say
Lord.
something?
Yes, I just wanted to just say I am honored to be in this space with such wise women, Courtney and Latoya.
Yes.
And I just wanted to shout them out because they really are so dope and like have influenced me in my life and just my effort to learn more and support my community. So I just wanted to say like they really the bomb ones here and shout out to them because
Well, shout outs to one of the best worship leaders in the land.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
There is no one like Sydney King. Okay. There's no one.
You can lead us out with a little
Okay.
selection.
I was trying to sing it, Waymaker.
we don't need it.
Oh my God. Please do Waymaker. Oh Lord. Well, we thank you guys. This was episode 11, Bergen Street. First installment of Queen Talk. We're gonna have much more for y'all, much more content. We love y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all our beautiful, wonderful guests. And enjoy y'all night. It's the Junction and we out.
Deserve.
Bye.